Hi, Mama.
Hey, how are you doing?
You're in the office, aren't you? Because I saw your car. So am I.
Yes.
I'm around the
Oh,
corner.
okay.
How are you?
Great. Good, thanks. Here, trying to learn something.
Oh, you to teach me. Are you kidding?
No, no, lady. You have to teach me.
It's still trying to figure out what the other side wants.
Very difficult, Liz. I told my husband, okay, what should I do, to have those kind of, and those kind of transactions. Well, I will say in this way, at the time that we get the inspection report, what is the best way to educate our clients, to see what are the items more important for them.
Okay.
Because sometimes I always tell them, don't pay attention on any...
The little stupid things, the little stupid things.
Exactly. So what I learned is I included on my buyer's consultation, that part of it. And actually I am working with that kind of list for buyer's consultation where they can read it and sign it. Sign it here. So I think is that I can put it on their mind.
So you're meeting them, you're talking about it, and then when you say, which I'm just trying to walk through this because it's a great idea, but I don't know if it might be too early. When the minute they are under contract, and you're saying to yourself, inspection setup, earnest money, inspection money, earnest money, inspection money, earnest money. That's when I would send, and it's a great idea. I have something that says, now that your home is under contract, what does that mean? I'm going to send it to you right now, because that's when I have a conversation that saying, we really want money, and let me tell you why, or we really want them to give us money, and let me tell you why. Now, why do we want money? Because it's easier.
Exactly.
But if you're the buyer, you're terrified you're not getting enough. And if you're the seller, you always think you're giving too much. What if there's a buyer that knows no one and wants it fixed, but your seller says flat out, I can't, I'm leaving. But let me see if I can find that.
Please.
This is kind of, it's long, but it's good because, come on. I wrote it kind of for both sides. All right, I'm texting it to you.
Thank you.
Oh, come on, don't I have? What's your phone again?
404.
Wait a minute, let me look again. I thought I had you in here. All right, hold on. 404
513 3142.
Yeah, it didn't come up. That's interesting.
Liz, I am your best friend.
404-513-3142?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. I'm going to have to set up a new info. Done. Info. I got to set up a new info.
And I got it. I got
Okay.
your...
So it's, because here's the thing, and even more now. We can't get the workers out right now. You have a pandemic. It's even more than normal. It's
exactly. Yes,
so
I feel it like that.
Yeah, it's tougher than usual and because it's so skewed seller's market, they don't want to fix anything.
Exactly.
So
but
we have to start saying, my repairs will be 2,000 and less in the offer, just like they're waiving appraisal. You know what I'm saying? Multiple offer. You're in that situation. Then what do we do? Like start saying I'm going to buy it as is? No. But what if I could say, if it's not structural or the roof, blah, 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 that anything else will be X amount or less? Would that be something Mr. Buyer's ate? So I'm finding myself, is anybody else going to join us? Which is fine if they don't.
Yes, Wendy.
Wendy's on. Wendy's somewhere. Wendy's on. Is saying, what do I do that I can be the winner?
Exactly.
Do you like? Now when I'm writing my offers, I'm saying, let me ask you something. Would you rather due diligence or would you rather right to request repairs? I'm asking them, tell me what you want. Because I just almost got jammed. All right, let me see how I can. I'm changing my screen around. That's why I'm trying. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Wendy, how are you?
I'm doing great. Good
Hi.
morning, you all.
Good morning.
Keller Williams, I'm at the office.
Woo.
So we're just talking about how to save a deal. Let's say and I don't care, again, if you're representing a buyer or a seller, because I think that what makes one successful in this business is it doesn't matter, to be honest, when you think about who am I representing? If you're representing the buyer, but you're not realistic or sensitive to the seller's needs, it ain't gonna work. Hello? So yes, we know that we work for whoever we're working for, but you have to think and put yourself in the other person's position. So I just sent Yvette a little thing I wrote it out because you find in this business that after 15, 16 years, the thing that drives me crazy is not that you'll get bored, but sometimes you find yourself saying the same things over and over and over. And it's like, it just sounds like wah, wah, wah. And then remember, you can say it to somebody, but maybe they need to read it. People don't realize, and that's why when I market a house, I put special feature cards around the house. When I send an email to the other side, I draft it very, very carefully because I always think that agent is going to send it directly to their buyer or directly to their seller. Why? Because I'm writing it for them to do it. I'm writing them so I can pitch to that other person. I pretend the agents aren't in the way, that I'm trying to sell them on what our side is doing. So I wrote this out and I will send it to anybody that sends me an email or a text. At the end, it says, now that we are under contract, what comes next? The status of your property will eventually change to due diligence. That is required by guidelines. So yes, showings will usually slow to a halt. So remember, this is kind of what I wrote it for my listings, but it makes sense if I send it to my buyer when I say to them, listen, I'm going to send you this and you're going to get it. So yes, showings will usually slow to a halt. No agent wants to show a home to a buyer when theoretically that one home could be the winner and it may be gone for all practical purposes. We may work it for a few more days. We will discuss that. So what happens is when I have a listing and I get a contract and it's under contract, I drag my feet a little bit because honestly, once you see something go under contract and come back on the market, what happens? Somebody says, ooh, what went wrong with your inspection? Something's wrong with the house. So what I do is when I have a listing and it goes and I get a binding offer, I change the way the appointments are made where they have to come to me directly. Let's say it was going to the homeowner or not, okay? It comes to me and I say, yes, you can show it, but I send them a text and say, and I write it out ahead of time. So all I have to do is cut and paste. Hi, this is Liz Cohen. You just made an appointment. I wanted to let you know that we just went binding. It could be 3 days before. We just went binding. Do you still want to show the home? We're looking for a backup offer, period. It gives them the option because you never know. I've just closed 2 houses. We were the backups. Okay. So I say to them, nobody wants to be, to show a house that may be gone. We may work it a few more days. We will discuss. Time for inspection and appraisal. Inspection will happen ASAP. It can be any day of the week. Inspections will usually last 3.5 to 5 hours, depending on many factors: size of home, age of home, speed of inspector, software inspector uses for report, questions and level of distraction buyer presents to inspector. This is an opportunity for a buyer to measure and wander in a non-rushed environment. This time is for buyers and inspectors. Homeowners nor agents are usually present. I'm changing mine to usually. Okay, because I really, honestly, I don't want to sit there for 4 hours during an inspection. I'll come at the end, maybe, but I've read these reports for years. I'm okay with not going. This is usually where buyer has uninterrupted time with the inspector. At that point, inspector's report is sent to buyer and selling agent. That can take up to a few days. I am usually forwarded the report. I usually say I do not want the report as a seller's agent. I am looking for the amendment for repairs, right? Because if they send me the report and they don't send me what they want on the amendment to address concerns, Theoretically, back in the day, we had to disclose it because there was something on the seller's disclosure that said, have you had any other inspections and blah, blah, blah. So I don't say to somebody, I want the inspection report. I say, I want the amendment to address concerns. Why? Because one person, they might say, I love the house. I know I was in a multiple offer situation. I'll buy it as is. The next person might ask for the door hinge to be moved and the bottom scraping, and there's, okay? So you have to see what and everybody's different. You never know what they're going to ask for, okay? Knowing and asking about the buyer ahead of time, if you're a listing agent, and even if you're a buyer's agent, if somebody's moving from up north and their husband is going right down to work 5 days a week downtown, we're in the middle of a pandemic, they have 3 babies. Do you think they want to take on the repairs of the house as a buyer? No, they really don't. It depends what they have. Is it 17 things or is it 2 things? So we'll back up and I'll talk to you about how I actually write the amendment to address concerns, but I'm trying to go a little bit more broad right now, okay? The thing is before you get to that point of negotiating the inspection amendment, you should have enough information of who you're dealing with. So as a buyer's agent, you're saying to the listing agent, tell me about your seller. Are they going to want to do repairs? Or are they going to want to just give me money? Are they gone already? Have they had a pre-listing inspection? There's a lot of things you can find out just to find out he might be a handy person. I asked a seller recently to do a bunch of electrical on the inspection report. I found out he was an electrician. So when we're going back and forth about I need a licensed electrician, who's a commercial electrician, he didn't want to go pay somebody, he wanted to do it himself. I had to ask more questions to get to that. You don't just always get that information. Okay. That is so I said, we want to hear the amendment for repairs. That is the actual list of what the buyer would like the seller to repair or replace. Why I say that is if we read that document and the buyer walks away, we have to disclose items on that inspection report. Sometimes as a buyer or a seller, it gets into the allowance. So here's what I did is I explained the due diligence period and I wrote this letter out to explain this is how it's going to roll. We just went under contract, Mr. Buyer or Mr. Seller, period. It kind of, and I'll send everybody this little note I did because it kind of talks about, well, what if somebody else comes or what if we don't work out the amendment to concerns? It's kind of a broad thing. You send them a letter like this and you say, I'll call you after. The minute you go binding on an offer, the first thing you're sending them is your list of inspectors. Like as you're going back and forth making an offer, you're already sending them the list of inspectors saying, you better get locked and loaded because in this kind of environment, we have 7 days, we have 10 days. So you have to get your people thinking ahead. So if you have, Yvette brought an incredible idea for me earlier before everybody got on the call. You have to educate your buyers. I have to educate my buyers and my sellers that what we're looking for in inspection is we don't want a bunch of little stuff because that's $400 I can pay to some handyman. Okay, that's nothing. And then all of a sudden you're not going to touch my hot water heater, or you're not going to talk about the HVAC is, original and my breaker box is the old bad kind. Okay, you don't want to spend your time and write this long amendment for the seller to go easy and cheap, easy and cheap, easy and cheap, easy and cheap, and I'm not fixing anything else that's important. So that's really, really important. So when I look at a amendment to address concerns, or when I look at, I have inspection coming up and I just got the report, what do I do first? I get on my bed and I go on a Word document and I actually print out the summary of the actual inspection report, just the summary pages, okay? And everyone has a summary. And in my mind, I'm looking for 4 or 5 subgroups. I'm looking for licensed electrician, licensed qualified electrician, licensed qualified HVAC, and licensed qualified plumber. Those are my bigger ticket items. Those are the guys that when they say, I want somebody to come fix something, you want to make sure they're licensed. Now, if it's just a couple of of outlets that need a GFCI, then I will change that to qualified, contractor, qualified contractor. I don't have to say a licensed electrician. But if I'm going through the inspection report and there's 2 items that need a couple of GFCIs and nothing else really on the breaker box, except maybe they have the 4 screws in there that are like, that are a sharp edge and they're not a bottom edge one you'll see over the year, they can have a qualified contractor, not a licensed electrician. So I'm putting myself in the seller's boat. I want to send something over to the seller that when they open it up to look at it, they don't have a flat out heart attack, right? I mean, I've had people send me something where it was 3 pages long. It could have fit on a page and a half, and it looked like we were selling Armageddon. So I said to the other agent, I've got to type this over. I said, if I give this to my seller right now, they'll freak. Why don't just let me do you a favor. I'm going to type it over. I'm going to send it to you. You're going to go through every item and make sure I didn't leave anything off. Okay. And then I'm going to present it to my guy. Okay. Just because I'm trying to save this deal. So the contractor parts are this. You have your electrician, anything electrical, your HVAC, anything. It could be a flue. It could be something up in the attic. It could be something on the hot water heater that you're not sure if it's a plumber or an HVAC person that does it. Okay. What did I have the other day? I have a leak in a line on an HVAC system, and it was coming down down the wall. The plumber came out and he said, no, that's HVAC. The HVAC guy came out and said the plumber could have done it. I was like, son of a, I had him out there already. So we didn't want to, so it's interesting because sometimes you have to go like, who would fix this again? That's where you ask somebody that's been in the business for a while. Okay. You take everything and you do hire a licensed electrician, hire a licensed plumber, licensed HVAC, and you take everything on the report and you put them in the categories. Okay. Now, if it's the deck that needs to be done, if it's a railing that needs to be, then there's a your next, your 4th person is your everything guy. That's a qualified contractor. And you put that category. And if you're not sure what category it goes in, you kind of call and say, where do I go? Who would fix this? You're trying to build a document that this person says, wow, these are 4 people I need to call. This is 3 people I need to call. This is 5 people I need to call. And here's the names. I'll send names and phone numbers. Here's 2 plumbers. Here's 2 electricians. Because again, I'm trying to let you don't know if the listing agent on the other side has subcontractors or knows what they're doing. I mean, they might, honestly, they don't want to deal with it. We don't know this story. So one of the reasons I was always on the ALC, et cetera, and that I liked being on the ALC and handling all the vendors was because if you don't know something or know something about a bleeder valve on a hot water heater and how come it says it's here, but it, or there's some pump, is it really a pump or is it, you have to learn all that stuff down the road. And having vendors that you can text somebody. I sent my electrician yesterday, something was beeping at one of my rentals. And I sent him this picture. I said, what is this? It's a Sunday. I don't think he answered me back and said, I've never seen it before, but we went over there. We found out it was an old fashioned like fire, one of the fire smoke alarms. But trying to stay to the other side, if you're a listing agent, I don't have to fix a bunch of stuff because I have 7 offers. Okay. You have to fix some stuff and you have to find out, because I just had this, a lot of you are East Cobb agents. I just had one in Cedar Forks. You all know probably which house it was. It was the most expensive one in Cedar Forks. It was gorgeous. And we ended up winning. It was a multiple offer. We were the backup. The first offer walked away within a day because she couldn't even get her earnest money, and it was an agent representing herself. We were the backup. I give them the inspection items, and it got down to, honestly, it probably got down to $3,000, and the sellers wouldn't budge. And my buyers finally said, now, I think to this day, my buyers are sad. And I said to them, and I make a joke that I probably didn't push them hard enough, but at some point, where is it emotional? Where is it a business decision for people? Okay. Because if you don't slowly learn what those numbers are, Like, so my electrical, between changing these 3 items, it's gonna be $300. My HVAC, they're gonna do that. I need a hot water heater, but you've got to learn to know your numbers. And if you don't know your numbers, that's when you can reach out to somebody and say, what do you think this is gonna cost? What do you think this is gonna have slightly an idea number wise? So I'll write out sometimes my 4 things, and then I'll do a big line across my amendment. Or in lieu of repairs, seller to provide blank to buyer's closing costs. Now, you know, and I know, if you don't use them, you lose them. Okay. You also know that the more documentation you give the lender, you don't want to start with the lender coming back and wanting to check repairs and all that stuff. So it can get a little, how do I write up that amendment? So let's say I did the amendment to address concerns. I gave them 4 or 5 items, because there was deck, there was fencing, what else was going on? There was just some stuff. And then at the end I wrote, or in lieu of repairs, seller to get it. Then I just did, after everybody agreed, then I did amendment number 1. And I said, purchase price to, stay the same, closing cost, blah, blah, blah.
Stop, baby.
And that's
Stop.
my whole deal, I'm done. The key is understanding this environment, that it really, you have to set the level of expectation. You don't want somebody to buy the money pit, okay? But we've all had those phone calls 2 days after closing. Somebody called me and said, my basement's flooding. That's not a fun call as a seller's agent. I mean, as a buyer's agent. As a buyer's agent, my person called me, this is a month ago, and said, the big storms, they go, oh my God, my basement's flooding. What do I do? What do I do? I said, did you get, this is, I love, I said, did you get the gutters done that we got an allowance for, that I gave you the guy and he gave you no, we haven't done that yet. I go, get them done now, and get a price on him trenching too, because they're building a new house next door and you can see that it's affecting your drainage. Basement wasn't finished. It wasn't like there was damage, but when that phone rings after you close somebody, they don't call you in 2 to 5 days and say, God, we're loving our house. Thank you so much. They're calling you because there's a flipping problem. And that's just not a fun phone call. Trust me. So you try to say, I will be available and I'm going to help you see through these things. So that's why in general, if you think of yourself in this business as a connector, is somebody who has somebody that fixes things or does renovations or knows how to do decks or just did whatever it is. What happens is you build up your arsenal of names. So let's say your neighbor or your friend that you work out with, she's like, yeah, I'm getting my kitchen redone. I go, oh, really? How'd you find that person? Like, how'd you find that person? Oh, yeah. I go, do me a favor. When you're done, let me know if you liked him and if you recommend them. Because the truth of the matter is we're all hurting for people to do a great job out here. They're busy. These guys are busy. And for example, my electrical, I've got a strong electrician, but he's super, super, super busy. I need a backup. So I thought I found one. He's good, but he's not sharp enough. Like I need a sharp person. And what happened was something, wasn't in a junction box. It wasn't working. It would kind of blink on and off. I had him come to my personal home. He couldn't find it. He thought he fixed it. I moved the switch around 2 days later. It wasn't working again. I went back to my original electrician. I said, I don't care if it's in 3 weeks, dude. They had to open up a wall in another bathroom because when they built the house, somebody had dropped the junk, stupid stuff. So the thing is knowing who you can refer to as a buyer's agent. You say to somebody, remember, a buyer wants to fix it like a buyer wants to fix it. A seller's going to fix it like a seller wants to fix it. So we looked at a house a couple weeks ago and the agent said to me, what do your people think? And I said, well, they're really uncomfortable with the fact that your seller's disclosure said they didn't know how old the roof was and they don't know how old the HVAC is, and they've owned it since 2016. So, and I knew my people they were still licking their wounds over that one I said about on Cedar Forks. Okay. They were still licking their wounds over that house. So it was our second showing. They didn't really love it. I said, really, to be honest, we would have to have our vendors come out and look at the property. And she said, what do you mean? And we're texting. And I said, I would want my HVAC I want my HVAC and I would want my roofer to come look. And she said, oh, we'll have that, we'll do that for you. And I said, no, I would want my people. And she goes, no, we'll do that. So I sent her my people's names. I said, well, listen, I would wait until my people say they were interested or not. She goes, oh no, we're gonna probably do that anyway. So if I've got an objection at a home, the listing agent wanted that feedback, like, why am I walking away? So when you get ready to put a listing on, for example, and you're the listing agent, you're not the buyer's agent, I'm just not a big proponent of pre-listing inspections. I believe that in general, they're gonna find 25 other things the next inspector. I've had the same property have 3 inspections and 3 different, okay, it never fails. So you're talking about them spending $400 or $500 and then to repair everything where somebody else is going to come in and find something else. Okay. But I do like to know that if my roof's how many years old or my HVAC is at age, I'm going to have my guys come and service it first and say operational, ching, ching. Don't know how long it's going to be operational, but it's operational now. Now, some home warranty companies I haven't used it. I think it's 210. I think it's 210, might be Old Republic, where you can get your HVAC on a listing or even a buyer. You can get it certified. So you're buying this house and you're saying, I don't want any problems when I sell my buyer this house with this. I'm going to call you for a new HVAC and you guys all of a sudden say it's not covered. Because no one likes to sell a house to their buyer and say, don't worry, it's covered by home warranty. Because what happens is, with our luck, it's not, and you've got egg on your face and they've already bought the house, right? So I think it's either 210 or it's Old Republic, where you can have the HVAC certified. They do the service before, and then they slap something on that says, if it comes up on home warranty in the year, that there's no conversation, they will fix it. So that's like an interesting angle of, because you get to situations now where, to be honest, the condenser, maybe you've got different sizes where Freon's not even used anymore, and it's an old unit, and or in certain situations, the closet needed new clearance now because code has changed on like condos and HVAC and fluting, and it's got to be, so things change sometimes, right? So it is good to just learn as much as you can as you go. And because we're blessed in this Keller Williams family, you have people all the time that you can text and say, what about this? Or this just came up. What do you think? Do you have anybody else? My background was pharmaceuticals. And before that, I was in consumer products. And I ran into a guy 2 years ago at Home Depot, and he was a big wig with Kroger. And I'm like, oh my God, I was just a little young, 25 years old, out of college, and he was my accountant. So I gave him my card and I said, I get really good vendors. I said, I'm in real estate. I get really good vendors. So if you need a plumber or something down the road, okay, I got an email from him last night saying, I know you said you had vendors. I need a plumber. I have to blah, 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 some pump. I did it. And I sent him 2. That's how you build your database, is by knowing what's going to come up on the amendment to address concerns and being a connector and understanding the inner workings of the house and how to be a win for everybody. I always say, I don't want my vendors to cringe when I call them. If they see my name and go, I don't want that, but I want them to not be the most expensive and not the cheapest, but to be value. So you always have to think, when you get that amendment for repairs, you get the actual inspection, and that's the time, right when you're sending them, or right before inspection, like it's the next morning, is maybe I do type something out that says, remember, even when you're building a brand new house. So when I send you this thing today, you'll see how my thought process is. I like to take my time and write something out very like make sense, very not rushed. I like to send it, and then I like to talk through it with them. I might do that at that point. They've already ordered inspection. It's the night before, they're excited. And I'm going to say, I don't care if you're building a new house. You're going to get an inspection report this big that looks like you're buying the money pit. Their stuff. They're always in. The key is finding what's health and safety, what's easy to fix. And, do I really should they be cleaning the gutters out? Yeah, but if they're going to clean the gutters out and they're not going to do something more important for me, I don't need the gutters. I need to know the gutters are operational. Because things like water flow around a house, we've seen more and more this year being a lot of problems. You know, somebody says, I don't know how water's coming, you know, is everything skewed away from the house and tiered away? Or, you know, the gutter's empty, or so are the downspouts far enough away from the house? Is everything not clogged before a storm? To send something out to your database to say, we have big storms coming in, make sure that all your grading on your outside French drains are clean. There's so much in the way of keeping a home healthy and safe and ready for your clients along the way, that it's not just about the buy or the sale and the amendment to address concerns. There's so much more to it than just that. So I'm gonna stop talking for 2 seconds. Questions so far? I mean, you really, 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 really find out right when inspection's happening, right before, say to the other agent, question. I don't care if you're the buyer or the seller. Does your client want to entertain money in lieu of repairs? Period. There's no right or wrong to it, guys. You just want to know because you want to be talking the same language as the other side. Why sit there and kill yourself writing an amendment to address concerns when they weren't planning on doing anything but giving you $500? Okay. So as a buyer's agent, what do? Oh, I send that inspection report right away, don't I? As a buyer's agent, I'm gonna send you that inspection report because I'm hoping you're stupid enough to open it. Not stupid enough. I'm being facetious. I'm kidding. I want you to get nervous. I want you to go, oh my God, there's so much going on with this house. I hope this person only asked for 5 things and not 55 things, right? As a listing agent, and you send me that report, what do I say? I'm not opening it. Now, have I ever sent it on to the seller? Because I want them to realize too, they could be asking for 55 things, they're asking for 7.
So can I get some clarification, Liz?
Do they have to disclose or not? That's probably where you're going with that.
That's part of it. So you can, one, refuse to open that inspection report.
So thanks so much for I say, thanks so much for the inspection, but I really don't want that. I won't look at it.
So you don't open it. You're now not responsible, but you can send it to your sellers.
I'm not at it. I'm not looking at it. I didn't lie. I'm not.
Right.
But it also depends on what the conversation was before. Okay. Am I in a multiple offer? Does my seller have to go anywhere? Do they have another house? I mean, there's so much more into it. If your seller is super motivated, or you know that there's 1,700 different scenarios with the seller. They're doing a reload. They have temporary housing somewhere else. They have a buyout. They don't care if this person buys the house or the next one, let's say. I don't care, but you know what I'm saying. They're not hinging upon that they're under contract on another house that they're desperately in love with, that they would turn their son over, their firstborn kid over just to get the house, okay? You have to know with where we're dealing with. Did I get 1 offer or did I get 4 offers? As an agent, giving an offer, did they have 1 offer or did they have 7 offers? How you set up a little bit of that conversation with the other side. Hey, it's from the get-go. What's the best way to communicate with the other agent? This is ABC easy stuff. How does the other agent respond to you? Do they answer your texts? There are people they rather talk. God bless them, they want to talk on the phone. You gotta know how the other side wants to talk to you too. And if they're not answering you and they're in a multiple offer situation, don't get snippy.
Right.
Don't get snippy. Keep just, hey, I sent you the text. You may not have seen it. I know you're getting slammed with these. So, for example, I listed a lot in Sprayberry this weekend, Friday night. My phone blew up. I got all these offers, okay? We're in a multiple offer situation. What did I do? I wrote everything out. We're looking for a cash offer. We're looking for 7 days due diligence. We're looking for the special stip that buyer and seller will split survey, blah, 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 blah. If it's not X amount of land in this time, I wrote it all out and I don't care if they called, sent an email or texted, I sent it to everybody. Highest and best Monday by 5. Why? Because I don't want to spend 2 hours answering the same questions to people again and again and again. So if I can weed out 80% of their questions by preempting strike, and that applies to getting them that home inspector before they ask, okay? That says, hey, I got a friend. So the minute you start looking at houses and they see something where their eyes start to twinkle, I send them this thing that says Liz's preferred inspector list. Everyone knows an inspector. Everybody's got a friend that's an inspector. And if you're going to hire your own, I want you asking the following 5 questions. And I give them all these questions, okay? Are they certified? And then I give them my list ahead of time. So they start going, oh, wow, I found this house. Because I already said to them, they've been looking at it for 2 days. We need an inspection in the next 4 days. Start calling. They've already looked at that list. I've preempted that strike. Same thing with how they're going to address their concerns with repairs. And if you say to them already, you're not going to find the perfect house. It's the house with the least evils. It's the house with the least evils. There's no such thing as perfect. I've told this story 100 times. I wanted Matthew McConaughey. I got Art Cohen. I found out Matthew McConaughey doesn't wear deodorant. My husband smells like a tulip. Nothing's perfect. So you walk out of a house with a buyer and you make them, on every sheet you give them, write the evils. Were there 2 things wrong with this house or 5 things? And then you'll find the house with the least evils are the house that only had 4 things wrong with it. So that you set up the standard that there's no perfect new house. Even if you're building a house, people go halfway through, crap, I wish I had done that. Or you go down to a finished basement. It's either too compartmentalized or they wish it was bigger. You know, it's too little, I wish it had more rooms. Everybody's different. He likes blondes, he likes brunettes, okay? They want, they want quiet, they want somebody rambunctious. Everybody's different. You've got to find out your personality type. It's the old like disc profile that we used to test people's personalities with not only your buyer or your seller, but the other agent and their people. So if you find out on the other side, I'm a buyer and the seller's like this engineer, it's going to be a different type of what they want to do. They probably want to control things a little bit more on that side. That's okay. It's just trying to figure out, as Jim Alexander used to say to us, the buyer wants to buy. Hello, Bob. Regina, I hear you. If your buyer wants to buy and your seller wants to sell, the agents cannot be the reason why we mess up a deal. Mm-hmm. Because ours is pure ego. Ours should be, ours is just be nice. Just be nice. And if somebody's not nice, maybe they're having a bad day. We'll give them a second chance. Sometimes we'll even give them a third chance. Sometimes we'll just bite our lip till we get to the end of the deal. Till the end of the flipping deal. You know, we're laughing about it. But guess what? I'm walking away. My girlfriend, I have a girlfriend that has her license and does it. She says, she came from New York in the clothing business. She says, just smile and sell them again. Like people that can drive you the craziest, sometimes even your clients, smile and sell it again. We take things so personally sometimes, and especially honestly, 2020, nobody's buckets are full right now to give anybody any, it's not like we have calm and sense of any balance to be able to say to our buyers and sellers, we've got you, we're okay, because we're on E. We're all on E. So everybody's got to take these next 3-4 months to get these buyers and sellers through, because to be honest, people aren't really moving just dilly-dally right now. Nobody says in the middle of a pandemic, oh, wow, home prices are at their highest point, okay? They really are. Rates are great, don't get me wrong. Home prices are at their highest point. There's no inventory. Let's move. They're usually pretty motivated. They've got to move. They're moving here, okay? They got to get their money out of their house. It looks like a great time to sell. They're going to go to a rental just because they're going to capitalize on the market. Really taking the time ahead of time to set up the tone of what the conversation will be. And to be honest, saying to the other side, don't wait 3 days to send the inspection report and the amendment to address concerns. That drives the other side crazy. They get nervous, really, really nervous. Even if you just send the inspection report, it shuts them up a little bit. Because you're over here, whether you're the buyer or the seller, scrambling to find out how much something costs. So we had a house about 6 months ago that it was cast iron piping and it showed signs of rot, and it was bad electrical. Okay, the whole house needed to be rewired. Okay, rewired. Two guys gave us $18,000. Okay, my seller had passed away. It was an executive, it was their kids. They lost it. They were like, oh my God. We ended up no cast iron. We gave it $10,000 because it was multiple offer, right? No closing costs. We gave him $10,000 in closing costs, called it a day. He took it. You don't know until you can talk to the other side and say, well, what do you think? No. They don't know. Nobody can profess to know what their client will do. I've learned that in this business. Oh, you could swear somebody won't do something, take something or whatever. And a teacher at Wheeler said to me a long time ago, he had read a book that talked about that in the 11th hour, you don't know what people will do. So you can say to somebody, hey, I'll present that to my seller. I know they won't take it, but I don't say that anymore. I'll say, I'll present it to you, but doesn't look really good. I have to be honest. Okay, we got 5 offers on this property already for land, and one of them's, 15,000 below cash. It's a little price point. I don't say this like, oh, good luck. Like, that's not nice. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be nice. Mm-hmm. And even if they're like, get back with me tonight, you just say highest and best is the next day. You have to remember, I think in this business is, and it's true, because man, 15 years ago, I was a hothead. Not a hothead. I would get upset. Such things would get me so upset. And now it takes somebody being just really mean, like just mean to me. Like, don't be mean to me. If you're a douche, I'll go right back. But it upsets me when somebody's like dismissively mean, sorry for all the vagrants. Am I on? Anybody saying anything? But again, if you talk to the other agent in a way that you say like, hey, I'm with you. I'm just trying to make this work. Don't shoot them out. Like, just work with me here. Let's figure it out together. You've got an ally. You don't have somebody you're fighting over something. And sometimes I'll write the other letter. So let's say you go back and forth and you've got this amendment to address concern. They want repairs. They don't. Okay. I will write a letter to the other agent, knowing they're going to turn around and send it right to the seller. And I'll say, look, my people are moving here. I'll tell them the whole story. They got 3 kids. She doesn't really want to move here. She's leaving her family. She doesn't know anybody. I mean, she's got 3 kids under the age of 4 years old. I understand the seller's leaving. I get that. These are the 4 categories. These are the 4, these are 7 people I know. I can help you guys, I can help with getting this stuff done, even if and we're not going to get into prepaid and all that stuff and how to make things work on. That's a whole different conversation. That if I want to get something fixed, but they don't have the money, then how do you make that work? That's a whole nother conversation about amendment to address concerns. That's a whole different ballgame. Okay. That's a situation where you could say to somebody, you want a roof or you want a hot water heater. We might need another $1,000 non-refundable earnest money. And they will put a hot water heater in there for you. And then you will end up getting it, with a new contract. There's ways to be creative way down the road, because I've got new agents. We're not going there. I've got an inspection report in my hands. I've got a seller we don't know what they're going to do because they're in a multiple offer situation. And I've got a buyer that they're a first-time buyer. And there's wood rot on a roof here. And it's not active in the attic, but it's an old roof. How do I talk through a buyer that's a first-time home buyer and explain that, God, probably 85% of roofs are free by an insurance company. And that's not seedy or illegal or whatever. That's truth be told. That's how it happens. And I didn't know that until, 10 years ago in this business, that, oh my God, that many roofs are done by insurance? Yeah. How do you educate somebody along the way? Not saying, hey, don't get an allowance, but we knew that was the price when we came in, that the roof was how many years old. It said it on the seller's disclosure. So sometimes you'll come in with a buyer and they go, the driveway looks like crap. And I know it's 5,000 chipped out and 5,000 poured in. That's a $10,000 driveway. I know it is. The house is priced great. They've got multiple offers. I just want to be number one. I want to be the bride. I don't want to be the bridesmaid. So later on after inspection, then I can go back in and say, well, I don't like that driveway. I'm going to ask them for an allowance, right? You've all said it. Said, let me be the bridesmaid. Let me be the bridesmaid. But be very clear that you have to let them know that might not work. That might not work, because most listing agents will say, you saw that when you pulled up. You saw in the seller's disclosure the thing. That was the price. That's the price we listed it at, with all that in consideration. That's when you have to play poker a little bit and say, yeah, I realize that. But, you know, because they're going to have that problem with the second buyer, the third buyer, right? I mean, they're going to have that at their price. It's just a very, very tough. So let's be honest, what's the biggest thing? The roof and the HVAC. Is the hot water heaters $1,300, $1,200, $1,000 installed, period. Unless they want to go to tankless, which has come down, you know, big time. But let me explain something. Deck work can be very expensive. Stuff with the deck in Cobb County and other counties have changed their codes in the last 3-4 years. If there's chimney issues where something possibly leaning or, you know, structural. So I always say, unless it's structural and you're on the side of a cliff, okay, and you have a split in your foundation bigger than 1/8 of an inch, because that's what they look for, or you have black mold in the middle of a wall, in the middle of the house, and you don't know where the hell it's coming from, everything can be negotiated. Because I go right to, who's going to fix it? Who's going to fix it? Who do I have? Who do I have? Who do I have? Oh, in the back, the pool patio is come down. I need to put I need to jack up that little piece, right? I don't necessarily want to go to Trotters or Engineered Solutions or some of the big companies, because they're going to charge me $3, $4, $5 grand for a jack that for a pier that could be maybe $1,500 with a smaller company. How do I learn where to go with what person? It takes time, but in the same breath, you have to find out what the other side is thinking. That to me is the biggest thing. Thoughts? Questions? Does anybody have like anything that's happened recently? Yes, ma'am.
Oh, go ahead, Yvette.
Just
So
a
I-
comment,
Oh,
like a little comment about the properties that they have septic tank as well. Liz, you are great though. Thank you so much for all your advices. I will add one more category on that list. It will be the septic tank.
Oh God, yeah. See, you do a lot of houses with that have sewer versus septic. And the interesting thing is I learned so much from that house that had the cast iron in the wiring. I had a seller who passed away and didn't know if it was sewer or septic. How about them apples?
Yeah.
Okay. And the inspector couldn't find out which one it was. Okay. Then we have, and I've got my plumbers that can repipe your house and, you know, call anything hot water heat. And then I have my big dude septic guy. Okay. He came out too. They had already called the county to do a septic tank test. They go out to the manhole, they drop the thing in there, they flush the toilets. If it comes up, okay, it was this big thing. I had never, 15 years, sewer septic. So it's interesting because this lot I just put on the market, I knew enough to say to the seller has Alzheimer's, sewer septic. He says, I'm about, what do you say? I'm 85% sure it's on sewer. So I wrote to my cut and paste. He said he's 75% it's sewer. He's not sure. Okay, we don't have a survey. You start disclaiming things in the beginning, okay, but you have to have people to do things. You have to have the resources too. You know, if you have a septic tank and you're selling a home with a septic, you got to have it clean before it goes on the market. Because if they find out there's a problem after, you're under the gun there. And that can be mucho money.
Yes. And the other thing that I would like to mention to you, it's about how to find out when you see that, you know, Liz, that with experience, you will see, okay, this property, I don't think that this property is connected to the sewer. It might have, you know, most likely the properties with more than 1/2 acre of land, they might have, or they are far away from the cities, they might have septic tank. But the other way that I always do when I am not sure, or the seller's property disclosure said that I'm not sure of something that it's not pet my
That was
attention,
ours.
I call the city, I call the water department, and they will be able to let you know if that property is on septic tank.
They couldn't because they didn't know if it was, they had a small bill every month, but they didn't know if it was, why didn't they know? Because I think his sprinkler system was like rainwater, so they weren't, like, it was this weird thing where when we called, they didn't know.
Okay.
You know, but what's really interesting is you said something about bigger properties, sewer stuff. You can't rely, I mean, you really can't rely on those seller's disclosures.
No. I never do that. I mean, it's difficult, but I think that one thing that
And
you say.
some people will not do septic. That's something you learn. So when you're working with buyers, it's so interesting. I've had over the years, the person that had the pine tree phobia. Why? When she was a little girl, like a tree came and like landed outside her window. She would go to a house and walk to the backyard immediately, and oh, there's too many pine, like it was all about pine trees, okay? Then I had the person that no way septic tank. At her sweet 16th birthday up in New York, and a septic tank overflowed in the house. There was crap everywhere, ruined her sweet 16 party. The woman was 50 years old. She couldn't say the S word. She couldn't say septic. She would not look at a house with septic tank. So knowing kind of out of the gate to say to somebody, why do they have these feelings? You know, trying to understand. So like, we found you the perfect house. Yes, there's pine trees in the back. I have 3 guys that do trees. Let's look at what we're up against. Maybe we write in the offer, trees to be removed. We give them the 2 companies. We give them $1,000 extra earnest money. We raise our price $1,000. That's what we wanted it done. You have to have the whole picture and be able to talk to the other side. Where's the win for everybody? Where's the win? I've had to say to other agents, I know our backyard doesn't look like we have a backyard. Let the buyer come, walk with you and me. Let's tag the trees. What area they want cleared. Why don't I see how much it would cost? Let me see what the seller would do. Why not? I have nothing else going on. If I'm in a multiple offer situation, I'm not going to talk to them, boop, right? But if I'm sitting there waiting for an offer, I don't care if you're a buyer's agent or, you know, if you've got a buyer and they love this one house, except for this, like they can't get around this one item and it's not, I want master down and it's up. Why don't you kind of put on your thinking cap and figure out how can we do it? So it really is negotiating a lot along the whole deal. And I send a lot of texts and emails in the last probably 3-4 months saying to people, thoughts, question mark, make sense, question mark, because when I say it's been a Corona crazy year, it's been a Corona crazy year. People are off. I mean, you could probably have any studies, you know, people are off. And so they are a little bit more sensitive. They're a little bit more, you know, anxious or a little more everything. And it factors into our business as well. It really does. I mean, I have a listing that's been on and off the market forever. I don't think they're ready to sell. I brought them offers and they were, it's like, you know what? They have my marketing at the house. They might relist again in March. I just I'm not gonna bring them or force them to go back on the market again when I bring them a pretty decent offer and they're not taking it. Life is like, we've kind of realized life is kind of short this year, that there were a lot of people that were very successful because they got very conscious of their time, because you'd go out and you'd only have a certain amount of time, you know what I'm saying? It's not like we were nilly-willy taking our time around. You were very, very conscious this year of when you got out of the house, what you were doing. So there are a lot of people that got very effective with their time management. But I think in general, setting the stage with your client, buyer or seller, ahead of time, saying, we're going to have to find out what this other person wants. Okay. We were not in a multiple offer. This will or won't come up again in the next person, you know?
Hey, Liz, I have a question, or a couple actually. Do you always send the amendment to address concerns and an additional like amendment number 2 for the the sales price or the closing cost contribution?
Not at the same time,
Together.
also on one
Okay.
item. And again, it kind of depends on if the other agent has already said, no, they want to do the repairs, they're not going to give you money.
Mhm.
Or if there were 3 items, you know what I'm saying? Like, it depends on what it was. If I will even decide, because if it's a hot water heater, will they put it in? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Depends what you're asking for, if I'm the buyer or the seller, and then I will usually do it where it's on the same amendment to address concerns, long line, or in lieu of the above, seller will provide X to buyer in closing costs. Now, remember, you go over, you lose the money, so you gotta know your numbers,
Mhm.
okay? But that's when I do that.
My other question is, when you know it's an old HVAC, but it's still like in
Operation,
good working, yeah, operational, so you can't really ask for a new one because they're
right?
gonna be like, no.
I'm gonna ask
Um,
you. Go ahead. You know what I'm gonna ask you. Yeah, go ahead.
Is it enough to be covered in, like, if you get the home warranty
Are you the buyer or the seller? Are you the buyer or the seller?
on the buying side? Sorry.
No, it sucks. It's really hard. That's the hard thing. Out of everything in this, probably in this business, the hardest thing was probably, because the roof, you can say to them, listen, the next time a storm comes through, most people get roofs that way. It's not an active leak,
Mhm.
blah, blah, blah. Okay. Okay. Again, you're not in a multiple offer. If you're in a multiple offer, you're in the same, it's a different story. Pretend you're not in a multiple offer. Okay. If the person it depends, are they putting down 20%? Are they putting down 5%? Do they have money to replace it down the road? Do they not? Are we testing the unit in the winter? Am I testing it in the summer? So I could be buying a house in the winter and everything tests okay and it's all right. And it's at the end of it, and then all of a sudden summer comes and it's not working. I've got a great one for you. We were supposed to close a house in June and it flooded, and we had 2 things on the report. Hot water heater wasn't working and HVAC wasn't cooling the pool house. So come Thanksgiving, November, let's say 5, whatever, Thanksgiving, we have the house flooded. We had another inspection. 2 things come up again. What is it? Hot water heater's not working and the HVAC. And guess what? They had given us a receipt. Shame on me, because maybe I should have had my inspector come back and check their flipping work. The hot water heater was not working. And the HVAC, they had thrown some Freon in. And so it had leaked out, obviously, right? Because we all know you can put Freon in, it pulls for a while. Ooh, we're all good. Buyer gets to walk into a problem down the road. Sellers walked away. Yay. Okay. They had to give us an allowance for a new HVAC and a hot water heater because it was a big fat ticket item. House wise, it was over $2 million, but they'd gotten busted not fixing stuff and didn't have enough time to go fix what they wanted. So they had to give us top dollar even, because we weren't, let's say we could have had somebody install one for $1,100. They had to give us the $1,400, you know, or what, you know what I'm saying? So as a buyer's agent, you don't want them to be in there. And if they are, and you have said that your HVAC may go in a year, you know what? It may go. You've got to just tell them, just so they don't go, yeah, that Yvette, she just had a sign and man, it just one thing after another. You don't want anybody to say that you sold them the money pit and that you were nowhere to be found. So
Guys,
go ahead.
sorry.
No.
I've been in heating and air for about 25 years. The biggest thing that I see is you got these home warranty companies. That's the biggest thing that they deny. Like, because I mean, you're looking at them spending $5,000 or just telling you no. And I've seen some ridiculous stuff where there's absolutely nothing neglected on this system. I've taken pictures, I've made calls, I've went high up the chain just to be told no as a, management in the field. So if me as a heating and air professional,
Who were you with back in the day?
Atlanta Air Authority out of Woodstock.
Cool.
I was service manager for about 10 years.
Really?
But I mean, I work for myself.
I'm always
too.
like, who are you with? Who do you know? What do you got?
No, I work for myself. I've worked for myself for about 7 years, and long story. But yeah, I've tried my best with some of these companies, and you know, my preconceived notion of the bad companies, you know, as far as home warranties, I made no secrets about it. You know, somebody tell me they got a home warranty, all right, who is it with? You know, so because some of
You-
them are just notorious.
That's why, here, that's another thing. I never give somebody one name. I always give them a couple names, right? Because what are they gonna say? Your boy, your friend, your buddy messed me up. So when you're talking to somebody about buying a home, and I'll say to them, home warranty, like I have my special steps. I cut and paste, all my contracts are done. So I have to just fill in my price, my closing date, blah, 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 special steps. In the special steps, I always ask for a repair and retreat termite bond, and I always ask for a home warranty. Now, if I'm in a multiple offer situation, will I give up the warranty? But I'll explain to my buyer, listen, if you got 10 inspectors in a room and you say, what do you think of home warranties? Half will say they're not worth the paper they're written on. And half will say, they're awesome. Why would you not get one?
All
Okay.
based on personal experience.
Okay. So I let them make the decision. Because what I want to say is I don't want you to get in there and think this is going to fix this. So the house where the people called me that said they were having water, hello, they called me a week later that said they had a backup in their piping system, that they had to have my septic guy come in, and it was to the tune of it was an insurance claim, yay, on a new house, to the tune of I think their out of pocket was about $2 or $3 grand, okay? New buyers. And they actually had rented my condo, and I found him a house. And I said to him, I won't make you sign another lease if you use me as your buyer's agent, we go buy a house. We went and bought a house. And they called me and I said, I'm writing you a check. And they said, what are you writing? You're not writing me a check. And I said, yes, I am. They said, it's not your fault. You're not writing me a check. I wrote him a check for $1,000 because I said to them, guess what? When you're pregnant with your third kid, they don't have kids yet. I said, when you're pregnant with your third kid and you've outgrown this house, who are you going to call? Me. I said, I know I'm done and that I don't have to do this. This is how I run my business. This is how you build client loyalty. You don't leave people to dry. So if you're buying a house and you know that HVAC is going to suck in a year, tell them and say, here are all our options. What do you want to do? Like what? Because there's no right or wrong. You don't know. It might blow for 2 more years. It depends. Are you like, always it's got to be 68 degrees, or you want to be 74? How do you run your machine? Are you hot blooded, cold blood? So there's so many different parts of, what's acceptable for one versus another. And go ahead.
You mentioned earlier about saying something until it just sounds like wah, 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 wah. Yeah, that's pretty much me with the heating and air. It's like, all right, this thing's 12 years old. Life expectancy is about 12 to 15 years. You're gambling at this point. It's a good idea if you have the money, let's go ahead and look into it. If you don't have the money, start putting pennies in a jar. It just the same thing. I have, like, going through the summertime, I'd have that speech with 3 customers a day, easily.
And it's really nice when you find yourself saying the same thing, especially as new agents, by saying to them, hey, I'm so glad I saw you today. I got my license, and you may not be buying a house, for the next, for 10 years, but something or someone, either you or somebody else is going to need a plumber, an electrician. They're going to want some granite somewhere. They're going to want to do something pretty. I'm your person. Boom. You need to send that out there. And so when you start putting all those feelers out there and you meet Jim, and Jim's like this wealth of knowledge. That's how I was like, oh, Jim, my HVAC guru now, like, come on, because it is all about that. Listen, my HVAC guy left about a year and a half ago. I was devastated, and I learned you got to build your bench again. You got to have 2 HVAC, deck, renovate. You could have 2 to 3 of these people. And how do you build them wanting to work with you? By sending them enough business. If you're giving business always, and then you call that one backup person, you want them at the drop of a dime, you've got to be careful to send business to people, right? Okay. So what's interesting is I started using the guy that did my house for my husband. My husband's got his guy. Oh, okay. So I started using smaller company, guy and his sons and all that. And the girl that answers the phone always takes care of me. Well, I swung by there last week, dozen roses and like a $50 gift card. She flipped. She couldn't believe I did that. I go, are you kidding? You always take care of me. Why would I not? So I'm sitting there this weekend, Christmas time, buy one, get one free on these like honey bells from Florida. They're like eating nectar of the gods. My painter of 20 years, my electrician. Okay. That's who gets Christmas presents from me. Okay. Is the guys that keep me going in this business. That's your lifeblood in this business is your guys, because you can open a door and find a house for somebody. If you ask enough questions and you kind of get what you want, you can put a sign in the yard and put enough marketing out there and know what you're doing that way. It's when the inspection amendment comes that you got to know what's going on with the house and who to call for the information and how to talk to the other side in a language that they want. And that's why everything I talk with people, a lot of times I'll send it in written format and say, please read this first and call me when you're done. So if you have crappy news for somebody ever, this should go out to the whole damn office, that one. If you ever have crappy news for somebody, like we just lost the offer. I know we were supposed to close in 2.5 weeks, but the buyer just lost their job and they're walking away. Send it to them in a text form and say, please, when you're done, call me right away. Because people process things differently. And, you know, it's interesting how you might not be, like, I'm not a chatter on the phone. I don't love to chat. I'd rather text you and peace out. But I'm a high D. I want to get on to the next thing. You've got to be aware of where the other side's coming from. And in more places, especially in the attention to address concerns, because a lot of times they're going to be like me on the other side, where I've kept it active in there. Okay. Because if I'm the buyer's agent and I see it's still active in there and I've been under contract with you for 7 or 9 days and you haven't changed it in there, right? We've all been there. I've gotten emails from the other side going, hey, I'm just kind of curious. Why is it still active in the system? And I got to go, oh, I'll get it right on it today. Okay. Well, they've sent a form already into FMLS and they already had it changed. So on the other side, you could send a form in, like, so there's, you know, you don't want to play games, but in the same breath, you're just trying to get the best for your seller and you're just trying to take the best for your buyer. I mean, as long as you work the hardest, and then you know, everyone's, oh, you agents, you know how you talk amongst yourself. No, we don't. I just want to make friends so I can get you taken care of. That's all you really want, right? And have a little fun along the way. What a concept. You know, how many people wake up and they just cannot stand, you will never get bored in this business, but there's so many people out there that really just don't like what they do. And the bottom line is you can create what your reality is in this business. You really can. And it's what your level of what you'll take. 8 o'clock last time, people are calling my house and my phone and about this $600 commission piece of property I put on the market. $600 when it's all done. I can answer the phone, but I'm not going to be rude. I'm going to send you everything I can, but I'm going to be smart about how I get you that information. Right? So I'm not going to blow anybody off, but instead of answering the phone, I just send them that and they go, wow, thanks so much for all that information. Because guess what? You're calling me probably about the lot because you and 20 other people called me today. Yeah. And it's funny because electrical's been tough for me, to be honest, lately. Electrical's been a little toughy. And it depends on what you want done. It's so funny, you know, whether you want your whole house with dimmers put in or you want, you know, the something rewired. It's very interesting. The other thing is, and we'll wrap up, is when you want a price from something, this is what I do for my HVAC, my plumbing, my I don't send them the whole damn report, guys. You send them the one page that shows, or the 2 pages that shows what you're talking about, right? So they don't have to dig. You send them you send the exact what the person's asking for. Because remember, if they say to replace or repair, okay? So when I first started in this business, I had some wood rot and I said, repair, please repair the wood rot. No, it was supposed to be replaced because they put so much Bondo in there and then took a screwdriver. It should have been replaced. I got, as a listing agent, I got messed up because I messed up my repairs and my replaces. Okay. So when you say repair or replace, you got to know, you have to be very specific. Every single word on that amendment to address concern, they are reading they're not doing anything that you didn't say at all. And it could be an and or an or and a period that messes that up. But all I'm trying to get is a price from my vendor, and in their head, do they have time to do this deal? What I don't want to do ever, 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 ever is send my guy out to give me a price on something when he's not going to get the job. It's not fair, and you will not build any kind of loyalty with your subcontractors doing that kind of crap. I'll tell you that right now. And you could say to them, listen, I'm the buyer. I'm going to probably have to do this after closing. Okay. And I'm going to give my guy your name and one other, but I just give me a ballpark of what you think this is going to be. Boom. And you have to find out again, is your event, it's like, I tell all my guys, just text them. These guys, most of your subcontractors out there, they are not answering phones all day unless they've got a staff person. So that's something you need to know is how does your vendors work? Your people that you work with, do they have somebody answering the phone that can answer questions? Or is it just some guy that's underneath piping a house and you got to give you an answer? You have to be able to give them enough information in the medium that they use to get your information back. And then you'll know your numbers better, et cetera. But you send these guys on wild goose chase and you waste their time and all that. And again, you're going to be in this business for a long time. You want to create that track record with your people. So when you have, when you have repairs, you have the right people doing them. Because you don't want to have them come back the morning of closing and find crap that wasn't done right. And that's where I've hired the right person, that they're not going to screw you up. Because we've had that happen too, where you go, oh crap. So people say, okay, I'm doing my final walkthrough. Do I do it the morning of? Do I do it the night before? When do I do my final walkthrough? Listen, at closing table I left and there was a flood at a house, $300,000 worth of water damage. We were able to call the closing attorney and say, stop the closing right now. We were the buyers. Because I didn't want the two companies fighting about whose policy it was going to cover it, okay? You want to make sure that when you ask the repairs that it's a reputable company, and then quite frankly, you go and check them. You don't just walk the house. You really have to check them. And that was my little reality that, I wouldn't have known how to check the HVAC because again, it was summer, it was working, and then it wasn't in fall, but I would have been bummed when my guy got in there and 2 days after closing, he says, my hot water heater doesn't work. And it wasn't a $1,200 hot water heater. It was actually $1,800 because it was this electrical thing. It's a $2 million home. My first and probably only I'll ever have, but you know what I'm saying? So kind of doing the due diligence along the way. Here's the bottom line. We've got so many people in our office that are sharers that, this weekend I happened to pull a text out to, I think there were 7 people on it saying, all right, I need a structural engineer that does inspections. All I have is this one guy. He's 3 weeks out. What do I do? Okay. And I got names from people. So I was able to give them to my buyer. My buyer on her own volition decided to just have a regular inspection. Again, structural, if you're on the side of a cliff and there's something that's going on, but what you're saying is you want to do renovations, that's a home remodeler's question. That's not necessarily an inspection item. When you go to do an addition on a home, that's when your home builder, your architect, that's when they decide structurally if it's, you know what I'm saying? So it's interesting that's the biggest thing about this business, guys, is we keep learning and learning and learning, along the way as we go. And that's the story. We're done. But I don't mind doing inspection amendments at all. Not that I enjoy them, I kind of enjoy them. Now, if I'm a buyer and it's a multiple offer situation, I don't enjoy them that much, trust me. When they're asking for the trees to be trimmed back and there's a slope on the side of the house, I want to be like, can I just get Jose out there to trim the tree? Are you serious? And I'll say to them, happy housewarming. These 5 items, happy housewarming, because it'll cost me $200 to send somebody over. We're not asking for those. We can't ask for those. We'll say yes to those and no to the important things. So that's why you kind of say, like, we don't want them to say yes to the unimportant, easy, cheap stuff and no to the expensive. Okay. Any questions? That's your story. And I'm sticking with it. All right, guys. Good luck. And here's my number. If you want to text me and I'll send you the stuff. My number's 404-444 3663. And my email is Liz Cohen, LIZCOHEN @KW. And I'll send you any of this stuff like the inspector thing, the now that we're under contract. God, what else have I done?
Liz, can you repeat your phone number?
404-444-3663. Look at that. I've got 2 more emails saying about that piece of land. It's so interesting. So it's interesting because the thing about contractors, and it's so hard, is understanding everybody's so backed up. And home remodelers, if they're worth the the paper they're written on, they're 2 and 3 months out. So what's hard is if you're trying to put something on the market for sale, and you're the listing agent, it's a different conversation than again if you're a buyer and you want to move in and then they're going to do their repairs or their upgrades, etc. But it's a tough one. You might have to kiss a few, but what I was going to say about that, I lost my train of thought, was set the level of expertise. Anybody that's any good, they're out 2 and 3 months. They're out. They're booked out. They didn't call you back right away. It doesn't work that way right now. We are in we're in a boom. That, believe it or not, even though with COVID, these guys are busy. Everyone's stuck at home and they were doing stuff to their houses. So for example, this 2-2 that we're under contract with in Smyrna that we have inspection with tomorrow. Yes, in my great dreams, I would have had 3 home contractors come out for them tomorrow to show them, yes, you can take this covered garage and build that 3rd bedroom there. Now, whether you step down, how's the HVAC? Are we going to have a return? What does that mean? Is our unit big enough? All that stuff. Yes, I'd love to have that done on inspection, the day we have inspection during our 7-day due diligence. But right now we don't have time. There's no time to get somebody out there and, and they're not saying I won't buy this house unless I can put a 3rd bedroom on, So it's you just try to do the best you can and talk to the other side, and sometimes it can be just, it's so interesting. The world that we're in right now is looking at people's reactions and stuff. So maybe, you have to Zoom somebody and say, what do we do together? Because when you look at somebody, you go, help, there's a different thing than you have to do this. It really is. And people get, they'll get very, so I had to make sure, even when I sent the text out, when they said, please call me, and I sent that text, I was like, thank you so much for your interest. So they didn't realize, I'm just saying, here's the deal. We want thank you so much for your interest. Be nice. You don't know, that person could be, their parent just died of, you don't know. That's my story. Got a good turn in my earnest money. All right, guys. Got my number. You got my email. I'll send all it. I'll get it all out by tonight for sure.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Lists
Liz.
and everything. We got an HVAC guy in the house. Woo!
Yeah, call me. I cover anything 400, Highway 400 West. So I'm out of Cartersville, so it's kind of a hike to get too much further over, but I got to make money while I'm learning this real estate thing.
Listen, huge. Because I got so spoiled with my old HV. You guys, you really don't realize how spoiled you get when you have good vendors, or you have a good plumber and you can say okay, if I have to do, or you have a hot water heater that goes out on a Friday night at 5 o'clock. It's amazing to build that rapport with people because it's all win-win for everybody, And if anybody ever offers you a referral, you're like, I don't want that. I don't want a referral. I just want you to take care of my people, for God's sake, That's all. That's the story. All right, I'm gone. Have a great one.
Thank you.
See you in a little.
Thanks. All right, I'm here.
Come on, Chipper, let's go night-night. Come on, Chipper. Let's go night-night.